I understand the name of the film is Prince of Fire.
Right.
Can you tell us specifically what the film, the story of the film entails and why it's called Prince of Fire?
Right. In order to identify the Jew, and I thought, I calculated that I have to take an exceptional Jew and use his life to demonstrate what is a Jew. And the exceptional Jew is the one who, as if was born not Jewish, to non-Jewish parents, in a non-Jewish culture, and he comes to Jewishness through free will, as a gift. Because the greatest quality that a human being has is choice. Free will, choice. What does it mean, free will? I mean, we know that there is an understanding that everything is preordained, destined. In the holy language, it's called Behira. 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 The animal kingdom doesn't have choice, but human beings have choice. And we know that in the books of Genesis, which is basically the 5 books of Moses, is a document, a computerized document, which tells us what is happening in this world. It's a blueprint that Hashem, the Almighty, used to create the universe. So free will or choice is the image of God. Because God, by definition, cannot have an image. We are not, the second commandment of the 10 commandments that humanity was offered is clearly defines that a man must not make an image of God, any image. Therefore, if man was made in the image of God, how can he? God doesn't have an image. Hashem has no image. The image of God means choice. You're between evil, between good and evil. But it's limited. God, Hashem, has unlimited choice, infinite choice. We, as human beings, have a limited choice. Like a child has a limited choice. Before, according to our tradition, according to the Jewish heritage, a child gets choice at the age of 13 and 1 day, a boy. And a girl gets choice at the age of 12 years and 1 day. So it's not a religious concept. It's a matter that age, the choice clicks in. There's a mechanism by which the soul has a total choice at the age of either 13 or 12.
You said that the storyline is about someone who wishes to become Jewish,
Right.
or come to Judaism.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, what is the story behind this person who wishes to become Jewish, and what does it mean exactly to become Jewish?
The identity of the Jew is just the identity of the soul. It's nothing to do with religion, it's nothing to do with the mother, it's nothing to do with the race that the Nazis created. It's to do with the identity of the soul, and there is a soul of the Jew, and there is a soul of a non-Jew. The film, which I named Prince of Fire, is a story of a particular person who lived in Lithuania, Vilna, or Vilnius, who was born in 1713, and he was burned to death at 1749. He was a prince of the house of Potocki, a very famous, illustrious family in Europe, and they had one son called Prince Valenti, and he was born to become the Archbishop of Poland, and he was destined to marry the daughter of the King of Poland, and then he found himself to be a Jew, and the church had a tribunal, and he was burned to death at the age of 36. On the second day of Shavuos, which is the day that the commandments were given to the world.
So you said that that the prince was burnt to death. 1749, I believe you said.
749.
Yes. And the prince had converted to Judaism?
Yes. Well, converted again is a misleading word. You cannot convert. You can convert an apartment and make 2 apartments, but the idea of Jewishness, again, I'm not saying Judaism because I don't want to compare it to any other ism, communism or Catholicism, because Jewishness is not a religion. It is an identity of the soul, and it cannot compare to any other religion because it's not man-made. It's imposed upon. So the Prince Valenti of Vilna he had a choice, of course, to renounce Jewishness, but this would have been against everything he lived for, because when he recognized that he's a Jew, it's a one-way street. Of course, he can leave, but then his whole purpose of coming to this world is null and void. He recognized, the real Ger Tzedek, the real convert, recognized that this is his tikkun, his correction. So he grabs it and he holds on to it. It's like to the end. And to the end means he's prepared to give his life.
So the Ger Tzedek became or started to practice Judaism.
Right.
And what caused him to be killed?
Well, the practice of Jewishness, the ritual, which seems to the Christian world and the Muslim world as secondary in importance, which it is, but it helps the person to remain identified. The Jew has to only accept the power of God and always beseech God to help him. That is a Jew, and that's what he has to offer to the world. That's what it means to be light to the nations, that we have to totally depend on God as our Father and our King. So the whole idea of the film is to identify the Jew as a person who is a Jewish soul, and he prepared to give his life for the Torah, for the laws, for the heritage. And he's not committing suicide, he's not going to be worshipped, he's not putting on a cross. He is a single person who is burnt, and he doesn't become anything except, we could say he's a martyr, but he doesn't become anything special. He just does his duty, which is he must give his life for what the Torah tells him to do. So he's just being disciplined. So he's not a martyr, he's not a suicide, he is disciplined.
So why is it that you feel that you should be making this film, you in particular?
Right. Why should anybody do anything? There's a sort of a calling, a sort of a voice, a little voice that God sends you if you acknowledge godliness, and you realize that something is missing. There's a vacuum. You see 10 people are having a meal, and the 11th is starving. So you know you must feed the 11th. That's your job because you're there. You're walking along the river, somebody's drowning, you can save him, you have to save him. So as nobody else is doing it, and nobody's identified a Jew, so I feel I have the obligation and I have the right, or I should have the guts to do it. So this is the answer. The answer is that I didn't choose to do it. I feel that I have an obligation to do it.
You said the prince was given the opportunity to renounce Judaism.
Right.
What exactly transpired?
Right. Basically, when he discovered that he's a Jew, and he came in contact with very illustrious, greatest ever Jews, like the Gaon of Vilna, the Graf from Vilna, and the Baal Shem Tov, and the Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, great Jews, he had no doubt who he was. But when he went to the tribunal, when he was in tribunal that was run by a renegade Jew who was going to punish God, he became the head of the tribunal. He was a Jew, became a Christian, and he became the head of the tribunal, and he was judging this convert. When he discovered he had no choice, he had to be burnt, not because he wanted to, because he had no choice. He had a choice if he wanted to renounce Jewishness, but then he renounces himself. So this is the story of the Ger Tzedek, Prince Valenti, the Avram ben Avram, who is buried, that the Gaon of Vilna, one of the greatest Jews ever, asked to be buried next to him. Because he died years before it, but they lived in the same time. So that's what I felt would be the best man to portray as the Jew. Not born a Jew, it's not a religion, it's not a race, it's a soul identity. That is what a Jew is. And every Jew must learn it. And what happens in the Holy Land, where there is a new culture, where the Jews are taught that they are like the other nations, is a total mistake and a crime against the Jewish soul, against the Jewish child. To teach him that he is like everybody else is like telling a girl that she's a boy, and worse. She's not a boy. She's a mother, potential mother, and she should be encouraged to be a potential mother and to be taught, not to be confused.
I'd like to understand a little more about the storyline that goes with this movie that you want to make.
Okay. The idea is that because the story of the prince is not known, only sketchy, and the Jewish community of Vilna of 270 years ago has some memory of this prince, and they come every year on his day of departure, on the burning day, to pray there and so on. And as he's buried next to one of the greatest Jews that are admired and adored, so I had to sort of recreate the story of who the father is and the mother and the Jewish community, so I had to have characters. So I started with the blood libel. The Jews were blamed and massacred for as if using a Jew and Christian child's blood to make matzahs for Passover, unleavened bread. So I started with this because it's such an evil, because a Jew, if he finds one drop of blood in an egg, he has to throw the egg out. So it's all absolute fabrication and evil. It's called the blood libel. And then you have the idea of the Merchant of Venice, the evil pound of flesh of the Jewish banker. So this had to be dispelled. And then I also talk about the soulmate. How can a man marry a woman who belongs to, and they are become as they are one soul? So the convert, how does he find his soulmate amongst the Jewish people? And he does. So I handle it. And then I handle also the Jewish banker, and also the tribunal, and the ghetto. The pogrom. So I'm handling all aspects of Jewish life amongst the nations. So hopefully it will be the film would be a standard, like a textbook film for the universities and colleges and high schools, like they have Holocaust studies, which I never understood. How can you have a museum for Holocaust, for studies? I mean, it's mass murder. It's not something that you're talking about museum. Museum is like a place of pleasure or something, of fun, or pictures, or I don't know. But that's what it is. So I hope that this film would answer questions about why and what happened and so on.